heard of this guy that watched a lot of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air growing up. I guess when he was probably a young teenager. And for whatever reason, he was so impressionable that he grew up thinking that he himself was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And, like, he thought that his own life was a TV show starring him about how cool he is. And that sounds really funny, but it also sounds like it's going to cause a person a lot of problems. You're probably not going to be very nice to others if they're just, you know, a bit player, right, in the story of your life where you're the main character. So it's a real setup for a miserable life. Likewise, a friend of mine, when he was, I guess around 15, 16, you know, going through that age, he got into a real wigger phase, for lack of a better term. If you don't know what that means, look it up. Consumed a lot of gangster rap. Didn't really live that kind of a lifestyle, but just thought it was the coolest thing. And would quote lines from Dr. Dre. "I'ma smack the taste out your mouth" was his favorite. Is his favorite, maybe. Or maybe not. Hopefully he grew out of that. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that he wasn't like a stand-up guy, a real good, honest, solid person who I liked being around, who just so happened to have this kind of an urban affect sort of integrated into his personality and into his vernacular. It really brought out the worst in him in terms of being a real sort of smarmy, smirking, antagonistic sort of an instigator. A real, like, spoiled brat, but worse than that. Like a spoiled brat with like a more of a mean streak. And I guess something I've noticed too, with a lot of these people, they find out that they have some kind of they affiliate or associate with that type of thing. Gangster culture, or I guess rap culture. And they kind of use it as an excuse to act out in lousy ways. Right? There's an expression: when you work on a farm, you smell like shit. Meaning that your environment rubs off on you. If you go to a farm, right, and you got a lot of cologne on your clothes, you're not going to make the farm smell like cologne. You're just going to end up smelling like manure. And likewise, so to give a different example for myself, when I was really young, I gotta put my stuff away. I love these double axes, they're great. I also got the giant axe, see? Oh, I got this too, let me show you. It's called the Gore Shovel. I really like that name, that's really cool. I'm gonna use it actually, the Gore Shovel. But I'm gonna keep this handy because it has fire resist, and I'm going to go to the hell level next. But this gives you a ton of cool stuff. So anyway, yeah, myself, when I was around 8 or 9, I got into the Final Fantasy gaming series, right? If you don't know what that is, everyone knows what that is. It's really popular. It's JRPG stuff. And at that age, I thought that the characters looked really cool. I guess they do in the context of those JRPGs, but it's got the same problem that a lot of anime has. Like, there's no grit, or, oh, I don't know. There's nothing realistic about those anime characters. They're too smooth. They all look like boy bands, like twinks, I guess. And even like when like they're trying to make a character that has more grit to him, that's like a tough character in an anime, it kind of falls flat because he just comes across seeming like the tough guy in the boy band. Like, I don't know, in Backstreet Boys, who was the tough guy? There was like a tough guy with like a goatee or whatever. And so I can show you an image, or maybe I can't. Hold on. So in Final Fantasy VII, there's the, let me fix this camera, the main character there. There's a poster of him. And he's got this motorcycle, and he's holding this sword. And it's this cool Japanese sword thing. And it's got, like, carvings on it and stuff. But the main character there, his name is Cloud. He's a real kind of a, like, looking back now, he looks like a sissy, you know. He looks really, like, feminine. His skin is really porcelain smooth. And I'm kind of thinking that maybe that whole JRPG / anime thing is really harmful for a young, impressionable individual in their mind's eye, in their mind, to hold this kind of an idea that, let me pull up a picture if I can. Hold on. Wait. Poster. Motorcycle. Where's the motorcycle? Motorcycle. There it is. Now I gotta figure out Streamlabs. Window capture. I don't know if I can do this on the fly. I'm gonna find out. This guy. There he is. So being young and impressionable and thinking that this dude here, can I get a bigger image than that, is like, or even this guy, I guess. Open image and new thing. Get out of here. Well, you get the idea. I'm not going to belabor the point too much. Oh, you can't even see it, can you? Whatever. I'm not doing this again. It's fine. You get the picture. That, there's not enough, like, real-life, realistic grit, because nothing in real life is correlated with, like, anime in any way, because it's too smooth, it's too fluid, everything works out too well. There's an emphasis, too, on, like, the strongest characters in the anime are, like, the guys who they don't even exert themselves. Like, the coolest, strongest character, there's the new show I watched, called, I don't want to go home, Solo Leveling, and the main character, the really strong character, he beats up all the guys, and he doesn't even take his hands out of his pockets. Now, if you try to, like, implement that anyway, even as a kid in real life, you're gonna be set up for a hard time, because you need to exert yourself, you need to fail at stuff, you need to struggle and overcome the struggle and overcome the difficulty. Sometimes it takes a long time, and that type of thing. So we're gonna have an example, right? So let's say there's a kid, maybe 11 years old, he's mowing his lawn, well, I guess his parents' lawn, because his dad is making him, and it's really, really hot out, and he's sweating, and it's uncomfortable, and the sun is making him feel uncomfortable, and it's making his skin hot and sticky, and there's bits of grass stuck to his face, and maybe dirt and debris and stuff stuck to his skin, right? But this kid looks up to Clint Eastwood, right? So he's like, oh, you know, this is really uncomfortable, and I'm tired, and I want to go in, but, you know, I'm kind of like that Clint Eastwood guy from that cowboy movie I really liked. So this is actually kind of cool, even though it's really uncomfortable. This kind of feels kind of cool, like my favorite character, because he looks up to that. But if you have another same-age kid in the same situation who consumes a lot of that Japanese anime stuff, you know, there's nothing in those shows that's relatable to real life difficulty in any kind of way. And he's just gonna complain the whole time and not really be an asset. So it sissifies you. I guess is the to make a short story long is what I'm saying. So honestly, if you're a young person listening to this, I think you should be cognizant and aware, because this might be a deliberate social conditioning type of thing to just weaken people, to decrease their fortitude, their willpower, by glamorizing weakness, in like they do in Japanese pop culture. I think they do, at least. They glamorize weakness in like the animes and stuff. Everyone looks like, you know, really, really soft, really kind of like wimpy. And it's like the wimpier the character, like you always see that trope of the wimpy character beats up the big muscle guy or something like that. So it's like almost like an anti-strength message that they're sort of sending to the youth. Regeneration, or no, I'll keep this one. Right. So they glamorize weakness in the same way that they you know, the powers that be, I guess, glamorize depravity and moral corruption and that type of thing. Like, you know, in the aforementioned rap and hip-hop, that's nothing new. I'm not saying anything new. A lot of people say, you know, argue that rap and hip-hop caused that. Or just like in modern movies and TV shows, you know, they glamorize drinking, drug use, activities and habits and behaviors that lead to enslavement and lead to a wretched human condition and a wretched life where the person living under them doesn't want to be alive anymore. Like a truly horrible, like a road to ruin type of thing, but it's glamorized and kind of being presented in such a way that it's appealing. They did this with, now I'm a little bit late to the party with this, but they did this with Cardi B's WAP song. In that nerd Ben Shapiro came out and he argued against the logistics of this woman's WAP, saying, you know, saying some nonsense. What's this? I gotta go talk to that guy now. Alright, that's cool. And it's not really that's the main problem in that particular song. It's that there's this woman who, it isn't even her, it's the fact that she has financial backing from multi-million, possibly billion-dollar production companies, an entire staff and team of producers, editors, and most importantly, for the point I'm making, marketeers, building this woman's image in such a way that it appeals to a young demographic. And when she has reached the height of her popularity, she releases a song that says, you know, well, hey, young people, you know what's really cool is prostituting yourself. And doing that is not cool. It is a horrible thing that leads to hell. And whatever a feminist type tells you, it's not empowering. I mean, they say it's like these types of things are like empowering based off of the rationale that there's an element of choice involved, like you're choosing to do this, so you're empowered. Well, that's stupid. It's got its own rationale behind it, but it doesn't really hold up to truth, because you can choose to do anything destructive and not be empowered necessarily. You can choose to, you know, smoke crack in a dumpster and have garbage thrown on you. That doesn't make you powerful. You know, you can choose to be a bum, and that's your choice, but you're still at the lowest rung of society. So choice doesn't just equal empowerment. That's stupid. It just seems like there is a... and I'm not the only one saying this. This is kind of a cliche to even be talking about it, but I don't mind. I'm just kind of trying to make my little channel here. There seems to be a deliberate effort into bringing out the absolute worst in the greatest amount of people possible. And that's not a good thing. You know, we should all be against that. We should all be saying no to that. Hold on, I gotta go back and sell my stuff here. I love this double swing. It makes hacking these little minions down so much easier. Let's go back to Kurast, or Kurast, however you pronounce it. Talk to good old Deckard Cain.
Hello.
Identify my stuff. And another thing I wanted to touch on too, and this is kind of in regards to the kind of JRPG example that I was talking about. Yeah, this is all just stuff I can sell. Right, so since like JRPGs and stuff, like all their characters are kind of like sissified. They're too good looking, they're all pretty boys, you know, and even like I guess the female characters have like ridiculous exaggerated qualities, and it just makes it not relatable in any way. Now, the character that I'm playing right now, my barbarian, but I guess any barbarian, his axe, I'm using an axe right now, and I feel like that weapon, the axe in particular, or I guess the hammer too, like Thor's hammer or something, but the axe especially has always had a special connection with the barbarian. You know, you always see the big barbarian warrior with his trusty axe. It just looks good. It just looks really cool and menacing, and it always just works, right? And the reason behind why the barbarian uses an axe is that he is an archetype, and there is a few things here to unpack. His axe is not really a weapon. It is a tool. Kind of like a farming tool that he uses, that a person would use to like cut down trees, to split logs, to hack away, you know, difficult bushes or something like that, to make the land more livable and farmable and that type of thing. And this builds up, you know, this kind of labor builds up a ton of strength. Farmers in the olden days were known for being almost superhumanly strong. And you've got that really silly movie. It's a silly movie that I really like, Braveheart, where all of the Scottish farmers outnumbered, were able to defeat the English soldiers, the English infantry. Probably because the infantry, I would guess, relies on strength of numbers, and not necessarily the quality of the individual soldier. And the farmers were all just had that kind of superhuman farmer strength to them. Right, so that's what the barbarian represents, is to me, is the working class person with his axe. And you've got that barbarian strength, and what that kind of develops over the years is an archetype. So if you work for a living, especially if you do a lot of manual labor, you probably relate to that archetype, that ideal, a lot. Probably much more so than, let's say, like the knight. The knight is like a military aristocracy kind of a thing. He's like represents the nobility. His weapon is a sword, and a sword is not a tool. A sword has no utility outside of being a weapon and hurting people, right? So, and I guess the knight is more known for his, for other things, for being like a military leader and making sort of, I guess, possessing executive authority in the olden days. Look, I'm not a historian. I'm kind of grasping at straws here to make my point, but hopefully the viewer knows what I'm talking about. Right, so like if you hold this sort of a character in your mind, especially if you're a young impressionable person, as cool as something to be sort of lived out or personified, I think you're setting yourself up for a much better time going through the kinds of sort of slings and arrows of day-to-day life and trials and difficulties of just like being fatigued and going to work and stuff and dealing with stuff. Much more so than a person who consumes a lot of JRPG/anime culture. If you do that, like, you are, in my mind, setting yourself up to fail in a bad way. Very much like the person I mentioned earlier who thought that they were the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And that sounds absurd, but I mean, it ruined this person's life, probably. Or at least gave them like a really, really bad time. So, as silly as it sounds, it's kind of like not a joke. Like, if it was happening to you, you'd probably be very miserable and unhappy. So take it seriously, I guess. If you're gonna like watch like anime and stuff, like, don't let it turn you into a silly Billy. Just be aware of the way that it might be rubbing off on you, and kind of take countermeasures, I suppose, is my main point. I leveled up again. I have 15 stat points that I haven't spent because I'm kind of waiting to see how my build should go. I'm cutting down these guys pretty easy anyhow. Right? And you should be doing that. You, me, everybody should kind of be, being aware of that while consuming really any form of media. Not letting your environment rub off on you, or at least being aware to the degree that it is, if that makes any sense. And you should be picking and choosing carefully the type of media that you do consume conscientiously for a reason. Like how I mentioned that, I play the barbarian for the aforementioned reasons, because it resembles an archetype, and the archetype possesses qualities that I myself wish to embody and personify. And you should too, and you should avoid things that are bad for you. That's nothing too profound, though. It's just like, go towards the things that are good, avoid the things that are bad. What's my runtime so far? Hold on. Don't kill me, guys. 25 minutes. Oh my goodness. I think this is the part where I have to take on the council. I'll need fire resist for this. I really like, so I really like the dual axes that he uses. It reminds me of, just recently I saw this, funnily enough, I saw an anime clip featuring this, this big lumberjack dude. He's like this big fat guy. His name is Hawk, and I think they took that from, dragons. They took that from the movie Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone. If you want to watch a very absurd movie, check that one out. There they are. I gotta be careful here. Right, and he's like this big, big lumberjack dude, and he uses 2 axes. And he smokes cigars and rides Harley-Davidson motorcycles, and he has like superhuman strength. What's the anime name is I think Lupine the Third. I haven't really seen all of it. I'm not going to watch all of it. I just like seeing clips with that character. So that's what the dual axe wield reminds me of. Yeah, I gotta go get myself ready for this. Kill the High Council. Yeah. Is that it? My mercenary bought it, but... yeah, I'm taking way too much damage here. Oh, I'm running out of mana the whole time. I gotta get out of here. Get out of my way. Let's get out of here. I'm gonna die. No, 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 no. Get out of there. I made it. Okay. So anyway, that's all I got, guys. I'll try to cover different topics at a later video. All right. End of transmission. I'll see you later.